everyone, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode, Beyond Borders. This podcast delves deep into the chilling world of true crime. I'm your host, RW, and joining me is my co-host, EJ. Today, we are venturing deep into a tale full of horror and shock.
But before we get started, we'd like to formally introduce ourselves as a group of high school students who are currently in the process of making a true crime podcast for an English project. With each episode, we aim to shed light on the intricate and frequently tragic stories behind some of the most captivating cases in history, while also highlighting the arduous work of law enforcement officials and investigators who have dedicated their lives to seeking justice for the victims and their families. So join us as we explore the secrets and complexity of some of the most fascinating cases of our time, but venturing deep into the world of true crime.
And once again, here's a disclaimer. We'd like to advise our audience that the content we talk about and this information we found is all information we found on the internet, compiling them into one video and meaning no harm or disrespect to any individuals we speak of. This podcast is solely for educational and entertainment purposes.
And a few content warnings before we start. A lot of our cases are heavy, so if the following topics may affect you negatively, feel free to click off this episode or watch another that is suitable for you. We will speak of torture, extreme profanity, violence, and gore.
Have you ever thought about how to get away with murder? Well, you've arrived at your destination. Teenagers here in South Korea have figured it out. So, in the darkness of the night, 8 middle school kids stole a car in Seoul and proceeded to floor it to Daejeon at speeds of 140 kilometers per hour. At a red light, this cop suddenly makes a U-turn, and I guess they scared the kids enough where they actually ran the red light. They actually ended up killing and striking an 18-year-old on a motorcycle while he was making a food delivery. He often worked late nights and into the early morning to deliver food to support his mother and his education. He was making his last delivery of the night for a pizza. After hitting the motorcycle, the kids didn't stop. They kept driving for a couple kilometers until they stopped and got out and started running on foot.
Whoa, what? Was the car still even okay? Was it able to drive back to Seoul? Was it not even damaged?
Well, here's David Little, a forensic engineer, who'll be talking about his point of view from a car collision expert.
When I get a case, I first have to figure out, locate the vehicles where they are. I'm usually, more often than not, I'm involved in the civil side of things as opposed to criminal. So the vehicles have already removed from the collision scene. And so I have to locate the vehicles, examine them, starting with the exterior to figure out where the damage is, and then looking in interior to figure out where occupants might have been thrown within the vehicle, and then looking for and retrieving the black boxes, and then downloading that data typically back at the office. Also, part of my job then is contacting the police and finding out what evidence was there when they attended. There are cases where I'm called to the collision scene if they're serious enough, and then I gather information there. But as I mentioned, typically I'm involved shortly after the vehicles have been removed from the scene.
They're being chased by police and running for their lives, until slowly, each one started getting picked off one by one. The driver, though, made it back to Seoul before getting arrested. But instead of begging or pleading for forgiveness, they all smirked and smiled to the police officers. You want to know why? Because they knew they were going to get away with it, like they had many times before. These kids had many runs with the police, and they got away scot-free every single time. In Korea, there's this law that was put into place a very long time ago, around maybe after the Second World War. It basically lets anybody under the age of 15 get away with any criminal wrongdoings because, in the eyes of the law, they're innocent and they lack sort of the mental capacity to know what's right and wrong, and they believe that it would ruin their futures. So these kids are all 13 and 14 in this story, by the way. And the most punishment you can get for this is maybe like community service or a brief incarceration at a youth detention center. But it's nothing that you think of. It's not like the things you imagine in America. It's not juvie. It's these super nice facilities with sports centers and TVs. It basically is a community center with dorms inside of it. And you stay maybe a month tops. So one kid was actually meant to go down to the police station and talk to the police, but this never happened, and the police had just forgot about it, and they never tried to bring them back in or anything. But you know why this kid was just too busy to go in to the police station?
In a world obsessed with sensationalism, we often witness the creation of larger-than-life figures driven by the media's thirst for captivating stories. Elizabeth Holmes, once hailed as the next Steve Jobs, captured the world's attention with her ambitious vision to revolutionize healthcare.
We've made it possible to run comprehensive laboratory tests from a tiny sample or a few drops of blood.
But behind the captivating headlines, something insidious was brewing, a story of media biases and a rush to judgment.
522 today, Elizabeth Holmes.
Or Elizabeth Holmes.
Elizabeth Holmes is
a day for disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes.
Our podcast uncovers the layers of Elizabeth Holmes' journey, offering a critical examination of the media narratives that propelled her to fame, while also bringing her downfall.
We're here with Julia Foy. She's a faculty member of the BCIT Broadcast and Online Journalism program.
Being a woman, was she treated harsher than other fraudsters, convicted fraudsters who have been male? I would have to look at it. I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately, women still face bias in that, just being successful is hard enough.
We're your hosts, Irene,
Dig,
and Kyle.
Join us on the 11% as we challenge the dominant narratives, and together we'll unravel the layers of Elizabeth Holmes' story, learning valuable lessons about the impact of media biases in our society.
Don't miss out and follow us on our social media at the 11% Podcast and visit our website, the11percentpodcast.wordpress.com, for information on upcoming episodes and more.
It's because he was waterboarding somebody for money. That's insane, I think. I think that's ridiculous. Like, nobody should be doing that for just money. You see, after this incident, they became super popular and well-known and untouchable. They would often hit and punch kids to be giving their money, their lunch money, and they collected around $1,000. They got these kids to also bring gold from their houses so they can pawn it off to pawn shops and get more money for them. And when these kids had no more to give, or they didn't want to give anything, these kids would tie them up to like trees and poles and would punch them and kick them. They would torture them by waterboarding them and punching them in the face. One kid was so badly hit that he had to go to the hospital, and he was barely recognizable because there was so much blood on his face. So at one point, these kids were punching out this classmate in the bathroom, the school bathroom too, and he just said, like, wow, your face is so punchable. Like, that's insane.
I think, honestly, they're using that to their advantage, because they're saying, oh yeah, they don't have the mental capacity, which is true, but they're old enough to know that doing these things to people can really affect them and their future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So then, them being 13 and 14, they see, like, every year, kids will always be influenced by others, and every year, I don't know if you noticed this, but kids always act older than they are every single year. Like, right now, like, in 2023, we see, like, 13-year-olds wearing,
crop tops.
Yeah, and what you wouldn't usually see. Whereas back then, 13-year-olds were, they were
more kids, you know?
They were more, I would say they're more modest.
Yeah, more innocent too, right?
So, hearing this, I think these 13 and 14-year-olds are I just want to know, like, why didn't they ever, like, tell teachers? Why did no one, if they were so well known, I just want to know why people didn't stand up to them. Like, yeah, there are people who are, they're a group of, like, how many? Like,
8. There's 8 of them.
So there's 8 of them. But let's say, okay, if there's 8 of them, and they're, like, let's say the group of bullies, if everyone has a problem with them, why don't they all just group up together? Because if there's more people against them, obviously they can't, they can't fight them with just 8 people.
Totally.
Unless they're just scared.
But there are people, there's classmates on their social medias that found them and, told the world about them, like told reporters, and people reported on them, and these kids were known by people. Like, their classmates would constantly comment, like, what's wrong with you, like, get some help. Like, they would be on them always, and they would always ignore them or say nothing's wrong, or they just didn't care that anything happened. And the thing is, nobody else would enforce them. The police didn't, like, hold them accountable. The teachers didn't, because the teachers just thought they were just unteachable, but they still had to go to school. The parents don't care. It's like nobody can hold them accountable. Except for these classmates. These classmates can't do anything.
I also feel like if they were to get, like, expelled as, like, a punishment, it wouldn't even affect them in any way.
No,
honestly.
It wouldn't.
Like, honestly, what if you were taken $100, like, $1,000 just from you, like, actually, no, let me think. I'm like, what am I saying?
Like, it's insane, though, that you would, like, tie up someone to a pole and beat them for the lunch money. Who does that?
I feel like that's so unnecessary. But then again, it's South Korea, and I know that it's well known that South Korea has a really big, there's this really big issue with bullying, because it tends to be more extreme than in other countries. So, like, in America, as you said, like in the story, they would torture kids, or they would threaten kids for their lunch money, but they go an extra step, whereas where you said, like, he's punching him until he's bleeding, like, they really don't care.
Oh, yeah, they take it to, like, a whole new extreme, like, physically are, like, hurting them where they had to end up in hospitals for, like, days.
Yeah, and I'd like to think, like, because these kids are from South Korea, and if they were to be idols, they'd be canceled right away, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because from what I know, a lot of idols, when they are accused of bullying allegations, they are already kicked out. So this is a really big thing. So the fact that they don't care really shows that they're not worried about their future.
No, not at all. Because they think they can get scot-free, but they really won't be, like, left. They really won't happen to them after. Because these kids are, like, past 14 now, so they can get away with... They're, like, no longer getting away with stuff.
But this will still be on the records.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, no, it won't.
It won't?
It gets scrubbed off after.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They remove it. That's why. Because they don't want to endanger their futures.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, the crazy thing is, people found them. And they made articles with their names in it. So now people know who they are.
Oh.
But the thing is, there's so many people like that in South Korea. It's not just them.
So we don't know how many people are out there walking around. They probably killed someone when they were, like, 13. But then it could be, like, someone who works for like, a really good non-profit organization, but they, like, killed someone or something.
Yeah, I think it's insane that people get away with that and nobody knows. It's completely removed. Like, there's nothing on there after you turn 14. It's blank. Which is insane, because you could have done so many things and people would just hire you to work and not know that you have anger issues, you killed somebody, you tortured people. Like, that's insane. That's like a whole new life you're given.
Yeah. And what about their parents? Just a group of 13 and 14-year-olds just out here killing people. Do their parents, like, what are their reactions to this?
I don't even know what's going on with these parents, but they don't seem to care at all. These kids are gone for 24 hours, days on end, stealing cars, driving them. You know, they end up in completely different cities, right? They end up in Seoul and, like, all over South Korea. These parents have no accountability for the kids. They don't know where they are, and they don't care. Like, you know, your parents call you, right? Saying, like, where are you after a couple hours? Yeah. These parents don't. Like, if you show up at home, you show up at home. Like, you're alive. But that's it. They don't care. So even after all this, the parents kind of just said, like, oh, stay home, think about what you did wrong. But that's it. They kind of just went back to work and went back to their normal life.
Wow. I feel like some people honestly shouldn't have kids if they're not going to watch after them. And because, you know what, even if they're doing this, I don't know if they're influenced by media or something, but it could also be the way they're raised. Maybe perhaps, like, their parents were, you know, maybe they were aggressive, like, with them,
or something.
Yeah, they were neglected, or their parents have been aggressive to them, which is why they act like that. So I feel like the parents also play a part in the reason, like, why the kids act like this.
Oh yeah.
Unless it could be their exposure to media, because there is a lot of things on social media. But if you think about it, a normal human being wouldn't go on social media and go, yeah, I'm gonna kill someone. Like, yeah, they want to have fun, but I don't think anyone would go as far as to being, yeah, I'm gonna kill someone and I'm not gonna feel bad about it.
Yeah, like, the fact that they don't care about it either, like, that's so, like, messed up, man. And they also like they put it all over social media that they
Oh, so they were posting about it.
they're posting about it. These kids like these
So
kids,
they're bragging.
oh yeah, no, these kids like are like, did I say this already? But like these kids like post on their thing saying like, we're like Fast and the Furious going 200 kilometers per hour.
No, you didn't.
Oh, you didn't say this? Okay, let me start this.
Wait.
Let me say this. Okay. Before we go on any farther, let's go on to our sponsor. Do you hate meal planning? Well, what if I told you there's a solution to get dinner ready on the table in only 30 minutes with HelloFresh? HelloFresh offers 25 different meals every week with different cuisines from around the world. Stop the stressful meal planning by joining HelloFresh today with our discount code BeyondBorders15 for 15% off. And now back to our story. So the most shocking part about this is the kids don't care they killed somebody, right? Mm-hmm. So even though like if you're criminally negligent or you kill somebody by accident, like you just like you accidentally hit somebody as they're crossing the street, like, or a jaywalker, right? You feel horrible inside.
Well, of course I would. Like I would be apologizing like 100 times.
No, even to the dead body. Even if I like trip somebody, I feel bad, you know?
Exactly.
But these kids literally they just walked away smiling. They don't care. Hit and run is what they did. So these kids, they don't care. I mean, they don't care. I really mean they don't care. These kids, the one kid that was actually driving the car took pride in his actions. They said Fast and the Furious, going 200 kilometers and faster. And his classmates started commenting, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you killed somebody, like, wake up. And, like, these other kids were like, what? Or, like, these, like, classmates were commenting on all these 8, like, middle schoolers. And the people that, like, were just in the car were like, what? It's not our problem. We weren't the ones driving. Which, I mean, I guess, like, if someone, like, that's driving you gets in a car accident, it's not your fault.
Right.
But, like, that's still, like, you still committed, like, grand theft auto. You still stole a car and drove it across town. Like, I don't get it. Like, these kids, they also post pictures, all 8 of them. They take people's, like, Porsches and Mercedes. They, like, break into them. And they post pictures all over the car. They're on top of the car, and they're posting about it. I just said, like, new car, new whip. And, like, it's insane, because these kids are literally committing crime and posting about it. And, like, nobody holds them accountable, which is insane. Like, the classmates do more than, like, them. Which I find is, like, that's crazy. So, after these events, the parents were kind of like, oh, I guess you should stay home from school. You know, it's kind of a lot of heat on you.
That is crazy. The fact that they're not, like, honestly, like, I feel like the parents should have done more. Like, if they're just saying, oh, stay at home, no, I feel like they should have taken away their phones. They should have not locked them in the room, but, like, not let them go out, at least for a bit, like what you're saying, stay at home. But they're saying it more as if, like, it's, like, a offer, like, oh, you could stay at home.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of, like, it's not just because, like, you killed somebody, but there's a lot of heat on you, you know, a lot of, like, classmates aren't very happy with you, so maybe you should stay home.
Like, you just killed a person. I don't think that's right, so you should stay home. Like, what?
It's actually, like, it's ridiculous. And then, so, actually, this reporter found them in their apartment, and they knocked on the doors, and these 2 girls opened them, and they were insisting on an interview, but these girls were like, no interviews, no nothing, right? But they just wouldn't leave, so these girls gave the interview, and on it, it's actually insane. These, like, reporters were like, how do you feel? You know, are you, like, resting well? What's keeping you up at night? You know, are you okay? And these kids were like, these 2 girls were like, I mean, I guess it's sad what happened, but we weren't driving the car. So there really isn't much to think about it. What?
That's so selfish.
Like, I get you're not driving, but, like, you still were in the car when, like, is that not, like, shocking when you hit somebody with your car? Like, that's pretty shocking.
And it's not even your car.
Yeah. And then the person that goes flying across the road, you don't notice that?
And she's like, oh, no, that was a bird.
A big one, too. Like, okay. And then, here's the thing. The police revealed that that one of the 14-year-olds that were in the car at that time committed 77 crimes before that. 77 crimes. That's not even, like... That's not even, like, the amount of a normal, like, adult person.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like, you know? Like, that's insane. How do you have enough stamina, like, to commit 77 crimes? Like, how do you break in, rob, like, steal that much?
Honestly, I'm just surprised that they haven't been... Have they been, like, beat up themselves? Because
they're untouchable. That's what's the thing.
Because I feel like car owners or, like, people, like, they really just don't notice that these kids are, like, taking the cars.
If the car owners beat up the kids, they go to jail.
Oh, you're right.
Not even the 14
Oh, that's crazy.
They get to go to this detention center that's like a community center. They get to play games. Like, it's insane. So, another thing is, the Blue House in South Korea, which is equivalent to the White House in America, a part of the campaign for the current president, like, right now, was to lower this age limit, but it never was. But I think that's actually shocking, because if you look at, like, think about after World War II, it's like 1945. These 13-year-old kids are like, they're super young, they're super innocent, you know, they're like they're not mature necessarily, they're just like small, they're like kids, they're literally kids. But you look at 14 and 13-year-olds now, they're fully grown adults, you know, you never see this kind of, like, you would never kind of see that, like, that maturity back then. So it's kind of an outdated law that everybody is trying to talk about, and it's always a talking point about when presidents are running in South Korea, but it's never like addressed after they get into the White House, or the Blue House, sorry. They never address it after that. It kind of just is put on the back burner, and you know, they make comments like after this, this story kind of blew up in South Korea, and you know, the president was like, yeah, you know, this is kind of a problem, and you know, it should be fixed, but you have the power to fix it, and he doesn't want to fix it because it just, you know, there's more important things for him, like for the economy and for his politics. There are more important things, but for the world, or for South Korea, this is an important thing, but just because it is an important thing for him, he won't take care of it. That's all the time we have today for this episode of Beyond Borders. Join us next time for the episode where we explain another gripping case that's left shockwaves through the country. Until then, stay safe and keep seeking the truth.